What's up? What's up, guys? Welcome to another show, man. College football talk with Jay. We have our guy with us, Rob Veno, man. I feel like every time Rob comes on the show, we find some cash somewhere, man. He's a hell of a capper. Obviously, from Wager Talk, guys. We're partnering with Wager Talk. I'm staring at the live odds screen right now as I do all day, just comparing lines. Make sure you're getting the best number, no matter what sport you're betting, side or total. Just make sure you're getting the best number. We all trying to cash, man. But Rob, what's up with you, my brother? How you been doing, and how you been? What do you have going over there at Wager Talk?
I am good, buddy. Obviously, it's that time of year where everything's going to start overlapping.
Mhm.
College football, NFL. I know you and Ski already well into NBA stuff. I see you got videos up on the NBA. That's coming quick. College basketball. We're not going to have time to sleep. And obviously, and now that I'm on here, I need to congratulate you on your newborn. And you have no time to sleep, as is already. So it gets to be even less. But yeah, it's a great time of year, Jay. I'm excited. College football is kind of my wheelhouse. Right now, real quick at Wager Talk, for anybody who wants to go over there, you can find a NFL best bet for Sunday up and available right now. That is a totals play. I have a best bet in college football, and there's two plays tonight in Major League Baseball. One best bet, one top rated. So you can get all of that over there at wagertalk.com.
Yeah, man. Rob does it all, man. Baseball, basketball, college football, NFL, everything, man. Rob is that guy. I can't wait to get some cash with you this season. Whenever you're always welcome to come on the channel, man. I don't care what it is. You're welcome. I wish I could do a show with you every day, man. And I hate that I missed you out there in Vegas as well, man. But maybe next time. Maybe next time, Rob, for sure.
Jay, real quick, I'll be 61 in October, and I earned some respect from the young guys out there, not because I'm Larry Bird or anything, but because my cardio was good enough to never need a blow. All the 30-year-olds and under needed a blow, calling for, hey, could somebody sub in? And I'm like,
Man,
I
I
don't need
missed
that
out.
sub, man.
I hoops, Rob. I know I had hurt my shoulder, but I hoops, man. I
Yeah,
next time for sure. I hope
we
it's
get
even
you.
more people there next time, man. Hopefully we got to tell Johnny, let's do an NBA one, NBA meet and greet out there, man. Hopefully. But
Yeah, be
let's
good,
get to
buddy.
some games, right? Let's get to some
Mm-hmm.
games here, man. It's what the people are here for. Let's talk about this first game here. We're going to the streets of Wisconsin here, Rob. Washington State, they're getting 17 versus Wisconsin here. We got the total of 48 and a half. You think now we know that Washington State, they didn't look good in their first game. With it, could they've been really hiding some things? Possibly, they kind of just want to get out there with the win. And then Wisconsin blew their game out, the FCS opponent. So what do you think here? Does Wisconsin keep it rolling here, or can Washington State keep it close?
Well, a couple of things here, Jay, because I was really, really high on Washington State heading into the season, more from a totals perspective, but certainly to be a pest to teams in the Pac-12. And a lot of the reason for that was the fact that they got Cam Ward, their starting quarterback, from Incarnate Word. For those who don't follow FCS, I happen to handicap FCS football, knew a lot about Cameron Ward coming into the season, and couldn't believe he ended up at Washington State with his offensive coordinator, Eric Morris. Air raid specialist, went with Cam Ward there. So the pairing of the two reminded me a whole bunch of Western Kentucky last year when Houston Baptist had that mass exodus to Western Kentucky. Bailey Zappi became quarterback, threw for an amazing amount of yards. He's on the New England Patriots now, but they had the OC, they had all the receivers. And it seemed like the same type of fit. Watched the game last week, played the total slightly, just because, it was my opinion that they'd be a huge scoring team. And it didn't pan out. For whatever reason, Idaho played very, very good defensively. Forced me to upgrade my opinion of Idaho for sure. Washington State's offensive line looked a little leaky. And it could be, you had said earlier that maybe it's a look ahead to Wisconsin. Possible. But I think even more, it's the remainder of the team getting used to a new system offensively. And while Cam Ward looked good in flashes, overall it wasn't consistent. It's going to be hard to be consistent against Wisconsin and a Jim Leonard defense. That's for sure. It's a major upgrade in defensive class here. However, you got four extremely fast wide receivers on the field that Wisconsin's going to have to chase all over the place. They're not really used to playing air raid attacks in the Big Ten. Go up and down the conference, and you're not going to find a team like this. Granted, Ohio State's got extreme personnel, but this team does it a little bit differently. So I think they're going to have their shots, Jay. I was a little surprised that the number was as high as it was, 17, because I feel like on the defensive side, Washington State is good enough to hold their own. They're not quite as big, but they tackle and they do the little stuff pretty well. What's surprising me the most here was when it opened at 46.5 and I had the total, and I know it's Wisconsin, but Wisconsin with Graham Mertz at quarterback throwing the ball downfield, and with that running game, they're going to get their share. To me, in college football, Jay, 46.5 is low. Like betting an NBA total at 203.5. It's crazy, right? They go over by mistake. I think that may happen here, but bettors have gotten to it. You said in your opening that the number's up to 48.5. I still think there's value, guys. I think up to 51 is pretty legit to play a total here. I think you could see, odds maker at that point, odds makers will be telling you 34 to 17, 17-point favorite, 51-point total. I think there's value there. I think Washington State could be a little bit of a thorn in Wisconsin's side, but I am a little scared of the upgrade in class here defensively. So I guess for me, it would be play the over anywhere up to 51 and then just stop right there. 50.5, actually. You want to win on 51.
Exactly.
That would be my advice.
That's a good look there, Rob. This total came out at 46.5. It got hit up to 48.5 pretty quickly with a Wisconsin game as well, going 2 points over. They're liking the over in that one, so that's a good point. I'd like to say I lean to Washington State, but like I said, I hadn't bet the game yet. If I was betting it, I'd be looking towards the dog in that one. I'd really like it if Wisconsin had Ohio State next week, but it's 2 weeks from now, so it'd be lovely if it was a nice little look ahead spot. I'd lean Washington State in that one, my guys. What do you say, Rob? Let's go over here to Liberty, not Liberty Mutual, not the insurance company, but we got the Liberty got Liberty here getting 6.5 at the house, Rob. I cashed with Southern Miss. It was one of the few college football bets that I did cash in week one, but Southern Miss took them to triple overtime, ended up only losing by 2 points. Liberty looked like they were struggling there. Obviously, missing Malik Willis from last year or whatever of the past few years. He's a really good quarterback, a do-it-all guy for them. I kind of like to fade the teams that's missing this that has a lot of new faces over there, Rob. UAB opened up at -4. I was able to put a little something on it. Then I look back at it. It's up to 6.5. So maybe that UAB is a pretty good side there, Rob. What do you think about this game?
I agree. I totally agree. I agree with the line move. Congratulations to you for getting that number, because that's a really good number on this game. I think for some of the reasons you just spoke of, I would be on UAB here. The Malik Willis, a talent like that comes through Liberty once every 20 years, right? That's not happening again. And we saw it last week. Charlie Brewer was a starting quarterback for Baylor a couple of years back, and it looked like he had NFL potential. Transfers to Utah, plays 2 games, leaves the program because he can't win the job. And now he ends up at Liberty and couldn't win the job last week. Liberty runs with 3 quarterbacks last week, and the guy who got the most run was a redshirt sophomore. That position is downgraded significantly. And for Hugh Freeze, the head coach at Liberty, he's a spread guru. And when he was at Ole Miss, he really liked, I would say it was a little bit pass heavy, little bit, mostly balanced. But with Malik Willis, boy, he incorporated all those design quarterback runs, all those RPOs, and he just fit the system to his talent. I don't think he knows what he has right now. And he's adaptable, but it's hard to adapt until you really see your team on the field. And as you mentioned, Jay, Southern Miss, that's a team that, yes, they're getting incrementally better. But remember, that was a team and a program that was an absolute disaster last year. 3 head coaches, numerous quarterback injuries. It was crazy. And they come out and push Liberty to the brink of almost a loss last week. Liberty's lucky to get out of there with 29-27. The exact opposite can be said for UAB. It's a coaching staff that's stable. Bill Clark. It's a team with a lot of upper-class leadership. Quarterback play there. Dylan Hopkins, very, very strong running game, and a great defense for Liberty. Again, this is a huge step up in class off of Southern Miss. a team that's still transitioning against a team that's expected to win Conference USA. So to me, touchdown better, absolutely UAB is. Will Liberty continue to struggle? I think they will. Last week's game, again, and you hit on a great point early, and maybe we'll just keep making this point all the way through. There are certain situations, no blanket statement, but certain situations where team will go very vanilla first week in anticipation of not showing anything on film for the week two opponent. That's not the case with Liberty. They struggled. That was not a case of we're not going to show UAB anything. That was a case of we don't even know what we have here yet. UAB, the far superior team, they always come. One thing you get out of them, Jay, with that head coach is you get effort 60 minutes every single week. I like that. I'd be with you. I still think at 6.5. There might be a couple stray sixes out there. So again, like you said earlier, get the best of the number. I think UAB is the right side.
Yeah, always got to get the best of the number. And we get a little revenge spot as well here, Rob. I looked at Liberty smacked up UAB 36-12 October 2nd, 2021 as well. So you get a little bit of that, okay, you don't have your big dog over there anymore. Now it's our time to smack you up. So I like this spot. When I looked at that, I already liked the matchup between the two teams. Then I see the revenge spot as well. Now UAB have the far better team, in my opinion. I like them here. I agree with the line move up to 4 to 6.5, and I still think they should be able to get the job done by a touchdown here, Rob. So hopefully we cash it, man. Hopefully we cash it. They just smacked up Alabama A&M 59-0, man. Obviously it's a ACCU, but still, man, it smacked them up. Let's go to Smack City one time, Rob. Let's go over here to Texas State, San Marcos, Texas. We got Texas. Man, I lost money with this team last week. They had went from +10 to -2, Rob. I mean, I still think it was a good play. Obviously, it was a bet against Nevada. Nevada just absolutely smoked them, man. It ran me hot, but it happens, guys. It happens. Definitely not a college football expert, but Texas State laying 13.5. I do know that FIU is ass. Like they are terrible, right? Can we trust Texas State to win by 2 touchdowns here?
Well, I'm doing it. And I'll give you some reasons why real quick here, Jay, because you jogged my memory. One thing in my notes about that UAB game that I didn't get out there was that they have extended rest for this game.
Yeah,
they got 10
rest
days
advantage
in between games. So a lot of game planning can go on here. A chance to look at Liberty. As to this game, most of this play on my part, laying 13.5, and obviously that's another game that the early money hit hard. They hit Texas State here. But this for me is a 90% of it's a fade of Florida International. I mean, you just have to look at the state of the program. The program is almost like it's being born here all over again. Florida International, for those who don't know, a university where the administration decided they weren't going to put any money into it anymore. This is a team, Jay, that back a few years ago borrowed used shoulder pads from Mississippi State University because they didn't have money to get their own shoulder pads. Butch Davis, their ex-head coach, on the way out said that their game jerseys were 9 years old. They were in the same game jersey for 9 years. And said that the administration was trying to sabotage the program. He would not allow the coaching staff to go on the road and recruit for the last 2 years of Butch Davis's tenure. You couldn't go to any recruit's house, just didn't afford them the money for it. So in turn, what that does to a team is it's a mass exodus for the door. Florida International players right out the door into the transfer portal. New coaching staff comes in. Mike McIntyre is a very good head coach, defensive-minded. David Yost, a real good offensive coordinator. Folks will remember him best for his days at Utah State when Jordan Love, now the Green Bay Packers, was lighting it up for Utah State. He runs that very extreme tempo spread, but it's not easy to learn when you're coming off a traditional pro-style offense. So now you got to go to this extreme tempo, running a play every 15, 16 seconds. Not only do you have new players, but these guys aren't used to that type of conditioning. FIU, as I mentioned, a lot of problems here. The results, point spread wise, which is what we care about the most, have been horrible for FIU. We just talked about Southern Miss, right, Jay, and how hideous they were last year. The last game of last season, I had one of my strongest plays of the year on Southern Miss, a lousy football team laying double digits to FIU, and they covered with ease. I think it was like 37-13, pretty easy win. So you're in that same boat here with FIU. They're 1-16 straight up the last 2 years, and they're 0-5, 1-11, and on the road, 0-8 straight up, 2-6 against the spread on the road. But let me tell you how big their 6 road losses are by 20 points, 40 points, 38 points, 37 points, 33 points, and 17 points on the road. It's not good. Like I say, McIntyre's got his work cut out for him. He tried to change his team, or he didn't try to. He's changing the team from a 4-3 defense to a 3-4. Unfortunately for him, they didn't have enough linebackers to run a 3-4. So they had to go to transfer portal and pick up new players. Again, it's just, things are being put together. There's no cohesiveness with this team right now. Last week against Bryant University, for those who don't know, Bryant University is like a middle-of-the-pack Big South team, FCS. FIU needed overtime to win that game, 38-37. They were a 10.5-point favorite, didn't come close to covering, and they got outgained by almost 100 yards by Bryant, 470-377. Bryant converted almost 60% of their third downs. Bryant completed 70% of their passes against this team. Texas State, Jay, you had them last week. You were in that huge boat of people that had Texas State last week. It was more of a fade of Nevada than a play on Texas State. But there's reasons why that game happened, right? They lose turnover margin 4-0, which I guess you can excuse away to our first game of the year. We made some mistakes. Okay, I can buy that. But Nevada scored touchdowns on drives of 55, 35, 45, and 20 yards. You can't make it any easier than that on an opponent. And they kicked the field goal on a 3-yard drive. So Nevada didn't really earn much of anything offensively. Texas State outgained them. I think the matchup you want to watch here, and the reason why Texas State, this could get really ugly, is that Jake Spavital for Texas State. He's got quarterback Lane Hatcher, who came from air-raided Arkansas State, now coming to air raid here. And that Florida International pass defense, as I just mentioned, I don't know. Can I call it trash garbage? I guess I can. They gave up 70% completions to Bryant. What's going to happen here to a team that's probably chomping at the bit at home? I think Texas State probably wins this game by 3 touchdowns. I wouldn't blame anybody if they wanted to play Texas State first half. And I wouldn't blame anybody playing them full game at minus 13.5. Power ratings tell me, Jay, the ones that I make, show Texas State 16.5 better. So I think you're safe up to that price.
Yeah, hey, at least we just need them to get this from our 14, man. So Texas State early and often, hopefully they can bounce back. Usually when I take a team and they lose money, the next time is the payback. So I'll probably ride with you on Texas State on that one. And yeah, I had a little bit on Bryant last week. They were about to win that game as well before FIU come all the way back to make it go to overtime. And another thing, I like to fade the team that's coming off overtime as well. But yeah, FIU is a straight fade. And I'm surprised they even won that game last week. You made some good points there. If you give up 37 to Bryant, there's no telling what Texas State going to do here in a bounce back game with the air raid offense. If those cornerbacks and if the secondary can't hold up, man, this one could likely get really ugly. And you're playing. I mean, I know they're from Florida as well, but that Texas heat it's a little bit different, my guys. It's a little bit different. So Texas State there, man, you see it move from I think minus 11 or minus 13. Minus 11.5 up to 13.5. We agree with the move there. Let's go to the streets. Let's go to this somewhat of a backyard brawl here. We have Iowa at Iowa State. Rob, now I'm probably not betting this game, but I'll be honest with you. For a few years in a row, for sure, I was with the guy betting Iowa State, saying, "Oh, this is going to be the year they're going to beat Iowa." We know they had their really great defense last year. What's going on with them, Rob? They didn't look so good last week. Does Iowa have a lot of turnover? I would assume that a lot of those guys on defensive went to the NFL, right? That defense was loaded last year. What do you think about this game?
And they're still loaded, as evidenced by the fact that they scored 7 points last week and 4 of them were on safeties, right?
Yeah, they didn't score a touchdown.
2 safeties last week. Now, real quick, for those, again, who don't follow FCS football, South Dakota State was in the championship game last week. I mean, they are elite level, like North Dakota. In fact, they were in the semifinals, excuse me. But they're elite level, Missouri Valley, 1/2 tick behind North Dakota State, who gets all the FCS love, if there is any to be given from the national media. But South Dakota State's right there, and they return basically their whole team. And so you can understand why that was a real battle. In Iowa's case, Jay, I think we can somewhat apply what we've said over and over again here, that maybe Iowa had their eyes set on the in-state rival in week 2 and not necessarily on South Dakota State. And I don't think they would take them lightly, because you're talking about the third-ranked team in FCS, but still maybe a little bit close to the best. Let's put it that way. Defensively, still real good. Offensively, supposed to be better. Now, Spencer Petras is back at quarterback. And one thing, when I was reading up on Iowa, their beat writers this summer, one thing that surprised me is the enthusiasm that Iowa had for their speed on offense. Iowa really is known more as a defense program that churns out offensive linemen, has a good running game, very pedestrian passing game, but they've recruited a little bit of speed here that maybe they unleash on Iowa State in this particular game. Maybe they held back on against South Dakota State. We talked a little bit earlier about how Liberty misses Malik Willis. How about Iowa State losing Brock Purdy, probably the best quarterback they've had in quite some time, and Breece Hall, their top running back, who's now in the NFL. So again, when you're Iowa State, and Matt Campbell's done a great job there, but it's not like they run out and get 5 stars. You get guys like that fit that system, and then you lose them. It's not a reload situation. So for me, Iowa State may be a tick down early until they get things together here. I think Iowa's cheaply priced here, Jay. I really do. I think they're the better team. I think they're the better defense. And again, there might be a couple of growing pains with that Iowa State offense. Now, their first game, they win 42-10 last week against Southeast Missouri State. But make no mistake, that's not the same level FCS team as South Dakota State is. I mean, there's a gap between that Ohio Valley team that Iowa State scored 42 on and the Missouri Valley team that Iowa had some difficulty with. Southeast Missouri is nowhere near a top 25 team. So a little difference in opponents. One team had a cakewalk, the other team didn't. I think Iowa, that's probably why this line is where it is, Jay, because if you had reversed opponents and Iowa went out and smacked Southeast Missouri State and Iowa State struggled with South Dakota State, we might be looking at 6.5, 7 in this game. Instead, we're looking at 3.5. Iowa at home here in this situation. I think they're the better team, and I think the offense will show up. And that doesn't mean, before we get comments saying, Rob, their offense stinks, Iowa's offense showing up means they can get to 27, 24, 27. And when they get that much, it's a pretty easy cover at -3.5. So give me that side, Jay. I think that the line is a little misplaced here. I think there is a bigger gap between these two than 3.5 points.
Yeah, no, that's facts right there. I'd be looking towards the under in this game. I know last week I put a little something on the under in that game, and it flew. I'm talking about 7-3 final. You know what I'm saying? So I'd be looking towards the under. Iowa, like I say, offensively, I still need to see it. I think that's the one category. Obviously, it's a big game, man. These two always go at it, and it's always a pretty close game as well, man. I remember being on Iowa State last year, plus the 3.5 or plus the 4 or something like that, and then they were I think they were in favorites, but regardless, I was on them last year and they was close, man. And then they just at last touchdown, I don't know that I can't stand Iowa, man. I hate this freaking school, man. But I'd be looking at under 41. That's what I'd be looking at in this game. I hadn't even bet it. I may not, but I just know that if I'm taking this one, I'd be looking towards the under. Man, obviously Iowa's defense would definitely help out with it, my guys. But let's get to another one here. Last game up, really, Rollins. You want to talk about some more? Text in, and real quick, guys, if you have questions on any game, drop them in the chat real quick, and we'll try to ask Rob. We got probably 6 more minutes on the show. Texas A&M laying 18 versus App State, Rob Veno. Now, App State, they were up versus North Carolina, up 21-7, then gave up what was it, like 21 unanswered points, 28. They proceed to get smacked, then made it close again. They were going back and forth in that one. The defense didn't look so good, I must say. What do you think? Is this because can this one get ugly? I was watching Texas A&M game last week. Now, they probably were just shaking off some rust or not trying to show much, but I didn't necessarily like the way that they look. But you can't take too much into it, just one game, right? It's all about matchup. So, Rob, how do these two teams match up?
Well, I'll say this. I've gone a little bit back and forth on this one, Jay. For starters, what Appalachian State did last week, 40 points in the fourth quarter. How many times you see a team score 40 in the fourth quarter? I mean, it's crazy, right? But I think that speaks volumes to how miserable North Carolina's defense is, because the week before we saw North Carolina play Florida A&M, which marched in without 25 guys that were suspended for the game. And Florida A&M looked pretty good. They threw the football around. They scored 24 points. North Carolina's defense is going to be problematic, to say the least. That's not a problem for Texas A&M. That defense is savage. So for App State, it's a severe step up in class here for an offense that's really veteran, right? Cam Peoples a great running back. Chase Bryce is a really good quarterback who's been through a couple of ACC schools, Duke and Clemson. So Appalachian State has the pieces, but I just don't know that they're going to be able to consistently move the football against this particular defense. The other side of that coin is A&M and Haynes King last week. They threw for over 300. They didn't run it as good as you would expect them to run it, right, Jay? You would think that in a game like that, they would be able to just line up, follow that offensive line and go, especially with the recruiting classes that Jimbo has had there. But against this Appalachian State defense, what we saw last week, Drake May tore this thing up. North Carolina had guys running free. It almost looked like people didn't even know what their assignments were for Appalachian State. I mean, some of those touchdowns were too easy. We'll see. A lot of stuff is correctable between week 1 and week 2. And I have a hard time laying 18 in this instance because Appalachian State is a veteran squad that's capable. But you can't love what you saw out of their defense. No how, no way. And you can't, as I mentioned earlier, expect them to consistently move the ball on offense here. So what's going to happen for them is, I don't know, to cover this number, I think they have to get to 17, add 18 to that. You'd have to keep A&M under 35. I think if you can do that, you get the cover. I'm just not willing to bend and make that prediction here or even bet my money on that. I think there's a possibility this game could get over the total. If Appalachian State defense really is as bad as what we saw last week, then A&M will get to 35 or more without question. And I think that the App State offense is good enough, whether they move it consistently or not. They're good enough to get 3 scores, maybe 2 and a field goal, which would send this thing over. It's a rather low total, I think 54 or something. So that's something under consideration, but I really haven't played either way on this game yet. Like I said, I've done a lot of back and forth with it, and App State shouldn't be afraid of the venue, Jay. They're really that well schooled. It's that veteran of a team that I don't think College Station will phase them. But God forbid it does, because that can be intimidating down there with 12 man. If it does, and they turn the ball over early, that could get away from them.
Yeah, the heat could come into factor there. This line opened up at 16.5, been pushed to 18. So definitely Texas A&M money coming in. The total at 53 does seem kind of low, Rob. So maybe the easier play was to go with Texas A&M team total over. Maybe if App State, like say, if they look that bad versus UNC, Texas A&M might really carve them up in this. I mean, like say, the heat start to get to you in the second half. Them defensive linemen they're just out there. They're not really, you know what I'm saying? You can't really do much, man. The heat starting to get to, especially if you're not used to it. So maybe could possibly be a bust out game for Texas A&M. Now that I'm looking at it, it would be more of a full game thing to where it could really start to get out of hand, outscoring by 14 in the second half. And there you go. They're about 21 points. So I'd like to lean Texas A&M in that one, Rob. We didn't have any questions in the chat. Let me see. I know earlier someone said that they lean, just real quick. Earlier someone said they lean to Arkansas. No, he says he leans to I think he said Arkansas didn't impress him, my guys. He says he leans to South Carolina plus 8.5 versus Arkansas. What do you think about that one real quick, Rob?
I'll say this real quick. South Carolina was my top season over/under win play. I got them at 5.5. I think they're, in a 12-game season, are they a 6-6 team? I think so. They killed the transfer portal, obviously. Spencer Rattler at quarterback. Christian Beal-Smith come over from Wake Forest to be their running back, all-purpose running back. So South Carolina and Shane Beamer, second-year head coach. We saw it in the bowl game last year when they smoked North Carolina. He's got this team on the rise. So there's no doubt I like the team. But all that being said, you have to like Sam Pittman and Arkansas as well. And Arkansas was put through the rigors last week against Cincinnati. That was not an easy opponent to start your season with, Cincinnati, and they came out of it with a 31-24 win, +7. Here you're laying 8.5. Don't have a real good opinion on the side in this game. Obviously I'm high on South Carolina, but I don't know. You have to stay within 10 points. And Arkansas, they couldn't save anything, Jay, because the first thing to look at, and you've mentioned this a couple times on the show, is, hey, we've got a SEC opponent week 2. Let's hide some stuff and play Cincinnati. But you have to show everything with Cincinnati in order to win. For South Carolina, it was a little different. They had more of the walkthrough, 35 points. Probably could have had more, but I don't think they were showing Arkansas everything. If I had to here, if you told me, Rob, you got to bet the game, I'm going to take the 8.5 because I'm high on that side. And I think they have backdoor capability. If Arkansas should be up by, 17 at the end of the game, can Spencer Rattler go down the field by 14? Can he go down and stick one in there and lose by 7? Absolutely. So I think I would grab 8.5 in what should be a huge game out of the SEC. The only thing holding it back from being a major game is it's not divisional. One's in the West, one's in the East. But I'm sure South Carolina is ready for this, and I'm sure Arkansas is ready for this.
That's a good point there. Yeah, so I could see South Carolina covering there as well. Real quick, Rob, I just want to ask you. They do have a question. Real quick, any thoughts on the? We're going live on NFL for Thursday, my guys. The first NFL show. I just want to ask Rob, what do you think on Bills versus Rams? Just quick thoughts.
I'm probably leaning toward over, Jay. Just that both offenses are so good. And I know the defenses are too, but in the NFL, we see it nowadays where, guys like Josh Allen and Matt Stafford can go down the field in 4 plays and score points. So probably a slight lean towards over, excuse me. If you can find the 51.5s out there, you really want to get that, but it's mostly 52s. Spent a lot of money on Buffalo. The Rams might be being shortchanged here a little bit. I don't have a great opinion on the side, but I do think that you'll see your share of points.
Gotcha. Yeah, I could lean to that over as well. I'll need the Bills, man. Nothing's guaranteed, but I'll need the Bills. It's one of those things I like to do. I like the whole Super Bowl hangover. I know the Rams are on the regular team, and they're probably going to still try to get back locked in, but I think the Bills really have Super Bowl potential this year, and I think that this is one of those games where they want to show the world that they're for real this year. And who better do it on Thursday night, opening night, versus the Super Bowl defending champs here. So that's my angle for the Bills. Hey, I understand the Rams, but I love the Rams, but I like the Bills a little bit more on Thursday, my guys. Let's get out of here, Rob. Let's talk about some picks real quick. First of all, anything that you have going over there at Wager Talk. If you guys don't know, man, Rob he's the college football cap over there. NFL is the main totals guy. This is the guy over there at WagerTalk.com. Go check him out. They have all type of free videos, free picks as well, along with the packages as well, my guys. So, Rob, what do you have going over there? And any one best bet that you'd like to give out for the show, my brother?
Real quick, over at WagerTalk.com, if you go there now and you're interested in selection packages, we have a best bet in NFL. We got a kind of a variety pack, right? Best bet in NFL, best bet in college football, best bet in Major League Baseball for tonight's action if you need the urgency. For the show, Jay, I'm just going to go back to what I said about Texas State and FIU. Until FIU proves to me that they're moving upward in the world, that's a program that it's like they just burnt their house to the ground and now they have to rebuild it. I'm not going to wait for the rebuild. I'm going to cash tickets until they do rebuild. So give me Texas State minus 13.5 to, I'd say win by at least 3 touchdowns against FIU.
I like it, my guy. Texas State, y'all heard it, man. Minus 13.5. Take them to Smack City. I could not talk you off that as well. FIU, hey, they're probably gonna smack them boys up over there, man. So I'm right there with you on that, Rob, and I'm gonna ride with you as well, my brother. I say nothing official for me. I do like UAB. I took a -4. It's up to minus 6.5. If I had one single best play for college football this Saturday, that's what I would be on, my brothers. UAB. University of Alabama, Birmingham, the Blazers. Let's go, man. So I like UAB in that one. I agree with it going up from 4 to 6.5. We appreciate everybody for tuning in, guys. I have a money play for today. It's VIP, but it's over on the channel. You see what I'm saying? So it's for the very important people that like to tune into the show. Not charging anything. It's just time. You see what I'm saying? So did a WNBA show last night. Finna go hop on it right now. If you like to tune in, that's my main play for today. Let's get some cash, my guys. We will win. I appreciate Rob for doing the show with me as always. It's guy's a great guy, man. I'm pissed that I missed him over there. Hopefully we can do a NBA meet and greet out there in Vegas or somewhere. Maybe we got to go to Rob's town or something and do it, man. Yeah. But I love doing shows with you, my brother. Go follow him on Twitter right now at Rob Veno Sports. You can follow me as well at JMoneyIsMoney. Let's get some cash, guys. We're out.